in this episode.
According to initial reports, I just saw it, that it's killed like 8 or 10 generals from the IRGC, to include like the head of the IRGC, and like disabled their nuclear program. You're like, yeah, but I saw like 4 King Trout videos, like brand new King Trout videos. Like, so if that's what it took, that's what it takes.
In an obtuse world, Mark and Jefe will combine military, law enforcement, and general FUD knowledge to keep you vertical. Welcome to the Live, Laugh, LARP podcast.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Thanks for swinging by on another edition of the Live, Laugh, LARP podcast. Thank you so much for swinging by and checking things out. We naturally appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us. We see our analytics growing and all of that jazz, and we just really do appreciate everybody that has been supporting the podcast as we move forward. With that being said, Jefe, how's it going?
We have so much to talk about. It's kind of a weird thing. This is, I think this is one of our first episodes in a year and a half that we're. By the way, hey, spoiler alert, we don't have a guest today.
Nope.
It's going to be just Mark and I talking about
a whole bunch of crap.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Today's June 12th, but we'll get into. It's almost Juneteenth. So happy almost Juneteenth.
Oh,
but
that's right.
There's a lot
Next
of other
Thursday. It's a week from today.
I say a lot of other crazy stuff's happening, so we might not make it there. So
yeah, we may not. So as always, disclaimer for you guys: please ignore all of the background noise. We've got dogs, we've got cats, and all that type of stuff. I'll be burping a lot because I just stopped by the new spot in town, Sparks. Have you heard about this place?
Sparks, that's been out for like a year, dude.
What, burgers? Sparks
yeah,
Burgers?
that was in downtown for a little bit. It failed, and they reopened it over by the Home Depot.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's new to me.
Oh, it's all right. It's expensive.
It is. Yeah, it was expensive, but they had Godzilla. They had some. Today's was Curds Day. So they had cheese
happy
curds.
Curds Day.
Yeah, they had cheese curds. I had to tell Coriana to remind me not to get the cheese curds again. They were greasy.
Oh, yeah.
They were good, but
Greasily
they were greasy.
Good.
Yeah. But the burgers were good too. Damn good burger. Freaking heaven.
You paid like $15 just for the burger?
I don't know what I just.
It's akin to like Five Guys, where it's good quality stuff. It's all locally sourced stuff.
It is,
but you're paying like $8-10 just for the burger.
Yeah,
but
that's all right. Support local.
Speaking of sport and local, Access Sites.
Access Sites, that's right. Hey, we want to say a huge thank you to our title sponsor, Access Sites. They have been with us this year for up until this point, pretty much the entire year. So we do appreciate them. If you guys are interested in pick up any of their optics solutions or iron sights, I guess.
Optics solutions, iron sights, aiming solutions.
There you go. There you go. I'm sorry, guys. I have been up very early this morning. I've been driving back and forth to Kansas City. But that's no excuse. Needless to say, exercise. If you guys want to pick up some iron sights, aiming solutions.
There you go. That's good. Yeah, that's fine.
You guys can capitalize on a 20% discount using the code LARP. We'll have all that information down in the description below. And that's we just appreciate all of their stuff. So with that
revolvers,
being said,
ARs, AKs, handguns, shotguns, do that?
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah,
Whatever
you want.
Yeah,
if you have a gun, Access Sites has one for it.
Pretty much.
My favorites are, like I say every time, the revolver ones have been fantastic so far.
Mm-hmm.
And they should steal this quote: "Big dot is big good."
They should implement that,
or don't. Whatever.
With that being said, we have pretty much everything going on right now.
The world is
burning.
The world is burning, and we're in a basement talking. Like, I can foresee, like, this is going to be one of those things where, like, next year it'll be post-apocalyptic lifestyle, and we're recording here still on GarageBand, putting out like pirated internet for like the world, like, and now
Radio
here we
Free
are.
America.
It's like here we are, our basement, day 285.
I've been eating MREs for the last 4 months and still haven't taking a dump.
I haven't pooped in 4 months.
Well, let's start off with the easy one, the low-hanging fruit.
Lucas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Botkin himself has announced, most of you guys should already know this, but he's announced that he's leaving TRex Arms, the company that he built. And then he released a video kind of breaking down everything that was going on.
It's about a week ago now, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was last weekend I saw the video.
Okay.
I don't know, man. The gist that I got from it was he started a company with $2,000 of his own money. He built it up to kind of a respectable point, and then took on a partner, his brother. Right.
But
I'm not sure
I think
which
it's
one.
brother from other dads or other mothers.
What?
I think
Really?
if I remember correctly, who did we I listened to? I think it was either Isaac talking about it at like Art and War, like talking about like because they're like 12 years apart.
Yeah,
it's a huge jump. So I can't remember if it's the same parents. It's just that big jump, or was like a different mom. I
that's not that big of a deal.
No,
to
I'm
me.
not. No, but I'm just saying.
No. I'm just saying like the age difference is not that big of a deal because the eldest aunt and my mother were like 11 years apart.
Yeah, but the weird thing about it, and we're going to talk about a little bit more. The words that Lucas used were just very interesting on how he talks about events, like because he kept on talking about Isaac and David, his brothers, but he never calls them my brothers. He never once mentioned them as brothers. Now I don't know if he's just. I
think it was using the just term as family members.
Family members sometimes, but mainly it was very. Maybe they are just maybe like cousins or something. I don't know who they are in relations, but it just seemed very weird that you just referred them as Isaac and David.
Yeah, and then on top of that, when he brought on the first family member to help him out, he apparently ended up signing away, what do they call it? Control of his company. Like,
he had
controlling interest.
Stakeholder share,
something to that fact.
Something like that. We're not finance bros.
Nope. But anyways, he lost the majority ownership of his company, and he was what, like 19, 20 years old, something like that, and he had no idea what he was doing, which I can understand. I can respect that. And here's the thing, for me personally, I'm not a fan of Lucas Botkin, right? The reason why I'm not a fan is I started watching his material closely, probably I would say early 2021. I had known about him prior to that, but I really started watching his content about 2021, and that's about the time that they started really to blow up. And I started to see some things that I didn't like, where like he's in a car and he jumps out of a car and deploys his backpack gun by opening the back door and pulling at the backpack and then deploying his rifle. And then what's the very first thing that he does before he starts engaging targets? He gets off the X. Okay, I can see that. But what does he do when he gets off the X? He goes and hides behind another car. And I'm like, well, that is the most ridiculous freaking strategery that you could possibly imagine, because you've now just put yourself into a situation where you're going to endanger other people's lives because you've just now taken cover behind someone else's car.
Yeah. In law enforcement, that's like the first thing that we teach in using like car, I guess CQB or VCQB or whatever we call it these days. The first thing you do is clear a car, and that's if it has somebody in it, you can no longer use it. Even if you're getting shot, it's like, well, I can't use this car anymore.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. We train our guys to like come up to a car and say actually say car is clear, because one, you have your body cam going. So if there was a incident where, on camera you used a car in a shootout and there's people and you didn't clear it, we can clearly go like, well, you didn't clear because you didn't say it, because you're trained to look, and if it's clear, you're supposed to say car is clear.
Mm-hmm.
So Sorry, I didn't mean to go off
No,
on
no,
that
no,
tirade.
no. So that was like the start of it, and the reason why I ended up just completely disconnecting from Lucas Botkin is because I called him out on that in the comments, and naturally all of his bros were like, "Oh, you're so stupid. You don't know what you're talking about." Blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Okay, well, guys, he just put other people in danger, and that's not what we're supposed to be doing here."
Yeah.
Right. So that right there said a lot to me, and what put the exclamation point on it later was it was about a month or two after that exchange. Two things happened. Number one, I was telling my buddy MK about it, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Oh, it's like this one video," and I went back to look for it, and it was gone. He had deleted that video.
Okay.
That was number one. Then number two is he showed, my buddy MK showed me another video, and he's like, "Well, look at this." And I went to look at the comments, and all of a sudden I can't comment. The comments are limited. And I was like, I think it's funny that every one of his videos, his comments have been turned off. And MK's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "I can't comment on it. It's been limited." I took a screenshot and showed him. He's like, "I can get on there and comment on it." So someone, I don't know if it was Lucas, but it was at that time, it was quote unquote his company, had blocked me from commenting on his stuff.
Okay.
Because I had apparently had called him out and saying that this was ridiculous. You would never do this type of thing. He deletes the video. Then I can no longer comment on his posts. It's a little nitpicky and everything like that. And I was just like, you know what? I don't need to deal with him. And then fast forward to earlier this year or last year, the little tiff between him and Grand Thumb, and that whole situation.
No, I've known about TRex arms since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for because sidecar holsters weren't a thing, really, to be honest, until TRex arms came along. They had a couple companies had something close to it, but it wasn't as prevalent until Lucas came up with the sidecar. So I bought one for concealed carry, I'm using air quotes, for duty concealed carry. And I remember getting a bunch of his content about handguns and concealed carry. I went and out and bought what is that company? Stone Rider gear belt. I actually have like 3 of them now. They're good belts. Because that was one of the things he recommended was a lower profile belt. Doesn't have a buckle. It's a tension system with some Velcro. So I went and bought that. It was a great system. It just kind of evolved. I guess my things have evolved since then. But drama wise, I know there's always a thing with Lucas, and I don't really care. It's just internet people arguing in my eyes.
That's what it boils down to.
That's what it boils down to. I know there's that thing with. I did enjoy the memes of after Lucas posts that video, all the memes like that. I think I sent it to you and to the Glizzy party group.
Mm-hmm.
It's from The Simpsons, and it's like Lucas slapping Grantham outside the head. It's like, that's how you treat your wife.
Yeah, exactly.
No, my hot take on it. So actually, I just saw Hop posted a video about it, and his thoughts were very kind of similar to mine. He originally talks about supporting a company. So either A, is a company I support because of their values, B, it's a company I support because they have something I want and it's reasonably priced. And he talked about TRex. He's like, you talked about carrying on a sidecar, and then he talked about, it was nice about TRex arms, the website, we're talking about the company itself, was that when you go and looked at their products, like any sort of optic or any sort of kit they sold, they had a better description about things rather than like this. If you go to any other website, they just put the manufacturer's information on it. It's a very bland statement, but he's like, at TRex arms, and I haven't checked this. I don't know. I would assume Hop is somewhat a reliable resource, but he'll say he was talking about the Delta Points. Like, you could buy the Delta Point HDs, but you couldn't buy the Pros because the Pros sucked in their eyes, so they didn't sell it. And then if you go to a RMR, it said, 50,000 hours, but we found after, years of testing, this is what we were finding on like setting 9 and above, you would get on like 20,000 hours. So they do like hey, this is what we've noticed about it. This is what the product says it can do. This is what we've noticed it can do. So I do appreciate that sort of stuff. And then Hop, again, he hit it. I think he hit it perfectly. He said, as of right now, we have Lucas's statement in full, and we have the company statement, like their PR statement. So as of right now, he's like, if what is said in this space right now is correct, yes, I feel bad for Lucas and he got taken advantage of. Now, my hot take is that after looking at that video, though, there's a lot of weird language, and you and I talked about this, so Mark's not surprised about my thoughts on this, but the language that he used, it was just interesting because there's a lot of times when he was talking, he didn't say very normal everyday words. He kind of used weird off the wall words or very bland like generic words. So when for later someone says, hey, you said this, like, well, I used a generic term, and the biggest example was the allegation that someone sent a pornographic image to his wife like 2 or 3 times at the company. Now, what does that mean? That can mean a whole bunch of things. Like Mark and I were talking about this, and I sent him the was it Cyanide and Happiness, like a Cyanide and Happiness strip where they're having looks like they're having sex. I'm like, well, this is considered pornographic because it's imagery of sexual acts. So what happened? Like if a normal person, because first of all, the word he used, pornographic imagery, it was supposed to invoke an immediate emotion of like, hey, some dude sending junk pics to my wife, that's unacceptable. And I think that was a gutter. Like, it could be planned. It could have been just a him using very generic terms so he doesn't get anybody in trouble. But the wording just seemed really off. Yeah. Because what's even more interesting, because he admits it in like the first, I think, 4 or 5 minutes of the video, that he used to be essentially a sociopath. He talks about being, young in 18, 19 when he started TRex Arms. The only friends he made and kept around was something that he could use, like it's something so they can exploit them. And he even said that he lost and burned a bunch of bridges because he met these good people that didn't really have anything to offer him, so he never gave him the time of day. So now we have someone who, and then he goes on to say his wife helped him through that. I understand that. But now we're at this weird blow up of a company that he started, that now we have a guy that says, I have sociopathic tendencies. I use these very unique terms, like the verbs, the words he used are just generic enough to evoke an emotion that when he says it, you instantly jump somewhere. And I don't know if it's intentional or not. So then you'd be on his side. Because again, if any married person found out that somebody that you work with was sending your wife like junk pics, everyone immediately will have that visceral like reaction of, I'm going to murder that person. Yep. So when you hear that at first, you're like, gosh, like I cannot believe that someone did that at work that was part of one of co-owner's family members, and then 2, nothing was done about it
for months.
So now the question, it begs the question, why? It's very similar to every other like sort of investigation. Is if there's a lot of information that's given and the answer doesn't meet the findings don't meet the story you're giving, one of them is severely off, and more often than not, it's the story you are given because it's supposed to give you an emotional response. I want to trying to think of another term, like another one like that. Just take off like 90% of 2020, for example. Like you're told like one thing, and you were given all this information to have this guttural response. I'm going to use Kyle Rittenhouse, for example. Okay. Everyone, if you went and listened to the mainstream media, it was a young man showed up in Kenosha and murdered 3 people in cold blood.
Yeah, at a Black Lives Matter protest. Or a fiery but peaceful protest, and that he crossed state lines.
Yeah.
to do that.
And he was only 18 and had a rifle.
Yeah.
So like the information you're given is have this gut response like that doesn't add up correctly. And then it turns out if you watched all the video and you took everything into context, it a perfect sense of what happened, and there's a reason why it happened the way it happened.
Yep.
So like I have two generic feelings about the T-Rex arms. One, I don't care. I still have my sidecar. I don't like a sidecar. I think sidecars are a very unique piece of equipment for very unique mission set that most people don't have to go through. I understand carrying, like, there's a reason why people carry magazines. I understand a secondary magazine because your first one fails or you were in a prolonged engagement where you need 2 magazines. Sure, cool. Buy a reliable gun. Number 1, don't buy cheap mags. Number 2, and number 3, your chances of you getting into a shootout incredibly small. Chances you even get a shootout where you shoot, if you carry like a Glock 19, more than 17 rounds in one iteration is even infinitely smaller. So that's just my hot take on it. So at the end of the day, I just don't. It's like one of those like non-issues for me. Like, oh, cool, another influencer got mad at his company. And then part 2 is even if the chances are what he's telling us isn't the 100% truth. And the nice thing about where he's at is since he's acting as his own person, he can kind of say what he wants. But if TRex Arms, the company, comes back out and says something that there's a lot of, first of all, there might be NDAs where they can't talk about it just yet, or their lawyers are saying, hey, don't talk about this just yet because we're trying to get this all figured out. And then on top of that, if TRex Arms, the company, came out and said, this guy's a fucking liar, fuck Lucas, he was a terrible owner, there's like a whole bunch of legal repercussions on the back end of that. So Lucas has the 100% power to create the narrative he wants, and it sounds like he's trying to do it. So
what I will say is that if even if like half of what he said in his video was true, it's pretty damning.
I mean, it's business. That's what it is. At
yeah.
the end of the day, first of all, don't go into business with family.
Yeah,
I think that's a really, like, unless it's like, just don't go into business with family.
Just don't even do it. Yeah. So what I will say is that I do respect Lucas's, I guess his hustle, I suppose, is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
The fact that he built a company and now he's walking away from it and getting ready to build another one.
Asteroid Arms.
Yeah, I know, right? To kill the T-Rex. But I also agree with you that we just don't have all of the information. And while I would love for Lucas's story to be the be-all, end-all point of what the truth is, it's not. And what he is doing is actually pretty smart because he is creating the narrative that T-Rex is now going to have to fight. Very much like the stigma behind the P320, right? We have plenty of people that's like, oh, don't drop it. And everybody's like, oh my goodness, it's a dangerous firearm and this and that and the other. And sure, yeah, maybe it is, but maybe after a certain point, like all of the P320s after 2023 are perfectly fine. We don't know though, you know? So he's created the narrative that's extremely interesting.
So.
And I have to respect him on that. I as much as I don't necessarily care for Lucas Botkin, I don't care about TRex Arms. Their sidecar holsters were cool like 10 years ago, but I think that there are far better options on the market today if you're into that type of holster. But I do have to respect his willingness to get out and just kind of air his grievances, like Festivus. I'm surprised it was so early this year. But the fact that he's willing to take a stand. And then the other thing that I did hear was the quote-unquote pornographic images were like one of the family members of owner was trying to send like pictures of illicit anime to himself and sent it to...
Even then, like that's why, like when he says pornographic images, immediately I'm like, it's a big nothing. Like,
yeah.
Now, granted, would I
that
be
came from Brandon Wombat,
yeah.
the new face of T-Rex. He was on
Oh.
Focus Trip and talked about it, and that was like, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours of nothing. You know,
yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, well,
there's that. Yeah,
there's that.
So
That's our thoughts.
That's our thoughts on on the T-Rex situation. Long story short, 24 minutes into this, we don't care.
Yeah, it's interesting. What if I had to like put any like care or feeling into it, it's because it's a weird scenario, and on top of it, it's something to talk about, and it's a great example of how the influencer side and the gun market side of this coin that we were playing on can, one, backfire really, really fast, and then two, how the influencer side can almost like rally immense support using very not jaded, maybe that's not the word I want to use, very vague language to elicit an emotional response. So
I think that Lucas is incredibly smart and knows exactly what he's doing, because he's going to end up buying T-Rex for very, very cheap here in about 6 to 12 months. So there's that. The next thing that we wanted to dive into,
we have no script, by the way. Actually, the thing I want to talk about,
we have bullet points that we've talked right before we started.
I'm going to throw a new one in there that you weren't expecting.
You want to throw it in right now?
Yeah, that's King Trout has like 4 new videos like this month. It's crazy.
I know. He finally got off his ass and started doing some videos.
Now, granted, so I'm going to say this as a two-parter. The schizo basement scene that he or the office was so much better than the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I do like how he's playing the kitchen into it, because that, like, the leaky faucet, I think, has been absolutely hilarious to watch.
Like zooms in on that drip. It's hilarious. I met him at Clash Bash.
Oh, he actually went?
Yeah, he was there with Brandon Herrera. Okay. Yeah, and Brandon came walking up, and he's like, "Dude, I heard you got shot." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I took a ricochet." And
okay.
Yeah, King Trout was like, "What? You got shot?" And let me tell you, King Trout is exactly the same as he is seen on camera.
Yeah, I could see that. He seems like one of the. That's probably why he came from like out of nowhere, because he was one of those I feel like most of the people that do like conspiracy theory stuff or just like off the wall content like that, like when him and Wendigoon are, it's like this is who you are in real life. We put a camera in front of you and you just talk.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was pretty cool. I got to meet him and say hi, and who knows? Maybe I can work an angle and see if he will come on the show. We'll see.
Nah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be
cool.
But
he's posted like 4 videos this month, and it's been great. And I love the comments is like, I don't know what we did to deserve this timeline, but it's like, as we're talking right now, the news is breaking that, Israel's, bombing the shit out of Iran. According to initial reports, I just saw it, that it's killed like 8 or 10 generals from the IRGC, to include like the head of the IRGC, and like disabled their nuclear program. You're like, yeah, but I saw like 4 King Trout videos, like brand new King Trout videos. Like, so if that's what it took, that's what it takes.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So we were kind of going over the different things that we wanted to talk about this podcast, and I opened up Instagram, and the very first thing I saw was Netanyahu talking about how they've launched strikes in Iran. I'm like, oh
yeah, it's all over. Like, if I scroll right now, there's 1, 2, 3. Like every story so far, except for this one, has been about Iran. So
yeah, is that one that wasn't about Iran? Is that one of your
no?
Your thought?
Now granted, yeah,
or is it a glizzy?
No, it's one of those like, hey, you might like this one. It's talking about Miley Cyrus. I don't know why.
So the truth comes out.
I guess so. It's like, it's Iran, Iraq, a ad for Poncho, Iran, Miley Cyrus, Iran, and then Luigi Mangione.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
Yeah.
So what's your take on the Iranian situation here? I mean, is that
so? This is because I was typing about this today, and I alluded to it. So, it's going to tie in both events. So we're going to talk about the LA riots to the No Kings protests that are supposed to happen this weekend into the hitting of Iran.
I'm sorry, No Kings protest?
Yeah, so
are they talking about the thing with Trump saying that he's the king of New York?
I don't know what it's all about, but there is supposed to be let's kind of take a step back. So ICE raids happening in San Francisco, or LA, sorry, LA.
Yeah, I was going to say
LA, sorry. And then, everything falls apart and there's riots and protesting and all that stuff. And to continue the momentum of it, they started this No Kings protest that's supposed to start actually tomorrow. And supposed to hit a bunch of major cities. So I think if you Google it, it'll tell you who's actually has who's where they're supposed to be at. I think there's a couple here in Kansas. Kansas City's currently having protests right now for those ICE raids as well. And then it was really interesting. The heiress to the Walmart company put out this huge ad about the protest, talking about, we don't want kings, but you're worth $20 billion. So I don't know what do you have to say about it.
Yeah.
Heiress to Walmart.
Topeka.
Yeah, there's one in Topeka. I don't know if we were getting one here. Wichita is currently having protests right now, if I remember correctly. They're actually having protests where people just hold signs up in Mexican flags. But so we were a bunch of us buddies were talking about it, and then today or yesterday, a bunch of tweets that started coming out of nowhere from Pete Hegseth and from the DOD, and all these reports are saying hey, we're just pulling random people from embassies, and we're withdrawing a bunch of people from the Middle East, like Baghdad and Syria. We're pulling a bunch of people out of there. And then there was those rumors that Israel might strike anytime soon. And then all of a sudden, while all these protests are happening, the U.S. not involved strike into Iran. There's air quotes in that one. That's going to kick off, a big conflict. So, everyone says no one's more united than the United States at 9/12. So,
yep,
it's not looking good. I was joking about it. I'm like, yeah, I was like, oh, it's okay. I was texting my boys and I was like, hey, it's okay. I've seen all this stuff about, about the Middle East popping off again. So we'll have another 9/11. We will all be unified under one big American flag banner and go back to the Middle East for another 25, 30 years. And sure as shit, 12 hours later, I think I still have the text typed out. And then I just never said it. I'm like, nah, that's being too mopey popey on a yeah, look there. Look, I'm being 1,000% serious.
Yep, he hadn't hit send
I
yet.
absolutely love how these riots are starting, and now the DOD wants to talk about striking Iran because of nukes, and now all of a sudden we're striking Iran because of the nukes.
Well, so. The question then becomes: Do we get pulled into it because of Israel?
Yeah, of course, yeah. The weird thing that we have, whether you like it or not, Israel is an ally of the United States. It's where we offload a bunch of the military-industrial complex, a lot of the military intelligence research, and a lot of the subterfuge stuff. Maybe I don't want to say spying, because spying seems like such a weird word these days. But the espionage. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. A lot of that stuff is kind of Israeli led. And then with the support for the Gaza conflict kind of drying up, we decided to start talking about nukes again for some reason, and now it's...
Yeah, we quickly shifted to focus in on Iran and their nuclear capability, and all of a sudden, the U.S. has to make a deal with Iran. You know,
yeah, we've always made deals with Iran. It's weird because Iran has nuclear. They have achieved nuclear fission.
Yes.
Fusion.
Fission.
Yeah, fission. And this is my understanding from a very limited research. They have the capabilities and a stockpile of uranium that they were trying to start up the like nuclear power plants and everything like that. If you
some would call it yellow cake.
No, it's yellow cake's a little bit different, but the uranium that it has only like refined to like 20-30%, and to start getting to weapons grades like 70-80%.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my understanding. I'm going to say this. I am not a Middle Eastern expert. My understanding, this is stuff that I've heard and did minimal research on. So I bet you all three of your listeners that have made it to 35 minutes of us not talking to somebody are like, actually, this is what. But my understanding is that they're allowed to refine refine uranium, but they're not supposed to go to weapons grade.
Right.
And the alleged rumor is like, well, it's a very easy sell. It's like, well, they secretly did it in the background. You're like, that's always a card that was like in someone's back pocket, like at any moment. They're like, actually, they have done, they've got some weapons grade uranium, and now they're putting it into bombs and everything. And I mean,
it seems very odd. This is the exact same thing that we did in like the 1990s with Saddam Hussein.
This is what we did. This is how we got to Iraq. This is
in
exactly
03.
how we got to Iraq.
Yeah, exactly. We sent those weapons inspectors in,
Mm-hmm.
and Iraq, the Saddam regime was not very forthright and everything, so we just used that to our advantage to invade Iraq because they were supporting terrorism that ended up not having any support that we could find, really, and there was no weapons of mass destruction either. So I'm hopeful that we've learned our lesson from 20 years ago and we won't get sucked into another Middle East situation and just be like, hey, Israel, I guess, you did your thing. I guess Palestine's not a concern of yours anymore, and you want to take care of Iran. And then who's north of Israel? Didn't they just get into a tussle with them? Like, I don't know, a couple months ago?
That's Syria. What is it? That's not. Sorry.
It's not Jordan, is it? I'm pulling up the map because
pull up the world map because we're Americans. We can't remember. Yemen. I think it's Yemen.
Yemen. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah.
I'm like 90% sure now.
Well, we're about to find out here. Zoom in. Zoom. Enhance. Beirut, Lebanon.
That's the one.
Yep. So they attacked Lebanon just a few months ago, but that was supposedly they were connected with Hamas in some way.
Yeah. So my again limited understanding of that conflict was so there we had Hamas. Essentially, if you look at it as Israel, you have Hamas to the west. You have like Egypt and Jordan to the south, and then you have to the north is Lebanon. And there was, of course, Hamas and Israel. That's a very easy one. But Hezbollah, it's still, again, these are alleged things. I'm just alleging them because this is what has been propagated by everybody, is that Hezbollah is another arm of the IRGC, that if there was to ever be a conflict, they can hit Israel from the north and the west at the same time, starting like a double front war.
Yeah.
There was a conflict in the 80s. I'll say 80s or 90s. I can't remember. Where it was against Lebanon, Israel, and there was a peace treaty, like essentially a peace deal that there would be like the southern Lebanon could not be controlled by Hezbollah anymore, due to because just for like a peace agreement. So there was like this big stretch of the southern Lebanon that Hezbollah couldn't just hang out or work in anymore. And of course it's a terrorist organization, so after a little bit and after UN stopped caring about it, they moved back down south. So that's kind of why that started kicking up again, because once Israel, strategically is looking at their threats and saying, well, Hamas is right next door to us, and after October 7th they're like, okay, we need to eradicate that. And then they looked north and saying, well, if Hamas was able to do this with like limited resources on October 7th, Hezbollah is much more heavily armed and supported because it has the protection of a foreign government to keep them somewhat masked. So that's why they turned north, because Hezbollah was kind of saying, it was kind of, rattling saber saying, well, if you kill our brothers of Hamas, we'll come after you. And so Israel said, fuck you, we're going to go after you first then.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't like it either way.
Nope, don't like it one bit.
I'm very disheartened that this is kind of where we're getting pushed into right now. I've talked to a number of people, and they've all said, Israel is our number one ally, and I'm like, are they though? Because when was the last time Israel has ever, like, I don't know, helped us out in Iraq or Afghanistan?
They did. It's called Mossad and their assassination squads.
Sure.
No.
Or you mean Mossad's infiltration into the United States and the U.S. government?
No, that's AIPAC. That's something different. That's all sanctions.
I was talking about Epstein, but
Oh, allegedly, yeah, I don't.
But nothing happened. We were told nothing happened.
That's another interesting thing. Again, first of all, my absolute favorite thing that's about the whole Epstein thing, we're going to completely derail real fast, is how they said there's thousands of hours of video. They're going to find all this stuff, and then Bongino and Patel is like, oh, we watched the tapes, because the one camera that went out was watching his cell, but there's other cameras still working, and they're like, you see no one go in and out. The first person that showed up are the EMTs and pronounced him dead. Then how did you know to send the EMTs? What happened between?
Oh, there you go.
Their whole thing was like, oh yeah, we watched it.
Trust us.
No one goes in and out. Like it's like a one-way thing. Like there's no way anybody got in except for the EMTs to go check on him.
Yeah.
Then I think we found ourselves.
Didn't the autopsy say that his throat was crushed?
Yeah, it's
not from like hanging.
Well, also George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose, but they charged somebody for that. So I mean, we just don't care about the autopsy anymore. It's
it's funny you bring that up, because I watched a video on the way to Kansas City to pick up Coriana.
Yeah,
and this conservative and this left guy were talking about that, and the leftist was like, 2 autopsies said that he was murdered, not that he died of a fentanyl overdose. And the other guy was like, no, that's not what the autopsies say, because the autopsies can't say that a person was murdered. They can tell you how he died, and they can say that certain things exacerbated his current condition, but they can't say he was murdered.
What the usual thing is that autopsies, there was 2 of them. There was the state, and then there's the private one. Both regulated as a homicide. Now, as we talked about earlier with Lucas, when you hear the word homicide, we are trained to think someone was murdered. Homicide just means somebody else had a factor into your death. That's all it means in a legal sense. It doesn't mean that they are responsible. They just had a helping hand in it. For example, if I don't know, you took a lethal amount of fentanyl and got into a conflict with somebody, and during that you were put into a hold, a trained technique which restricted your breathing while you're experiencing the symptoms of overdosing. The officer contributed because he put you in this position that exacerbated the effects of the overdose,
right?
Or at least sped them up rapidly,
right?
So again, I challenge everybody to do this. Every time you read like these, every time you have a guttural response to a word that you either read or hear in like a podcast or something, take some time, understand what that word fully means and what it could be used in different contexts. For example, with Lucas saying pornographic images, your guttural responses, some dude was sending his wife nudies. Those reports, yes, both of them said it was ruled a homicide. This means that another individual had a helping hand in the death. But we are all trained to think homicide means that person pulled the trigger. That's the person that killed him. So
it's interesting that you bring that up too, because we're talking about definitions.
Yeah.
Not to take it way off course here.
At least we were from Israel to George Floyd really quick.
It goes full
back.
circle
Yeah.
back to Israel. What does Holocaust mean?
Well, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
So what I watched, this came from the internet. This is a real professor of some sort was standing up and talking about the Holocaust of the Jews during World War II. And Holocaust means, in actuality, a burnt offering.
Okay.
So when, help me out with the biblical aspects, but when Abraham was going to sacrifice his son,
Yep.
he was going to holocaust his son
Okay.
to God, right? He was going to give him as a burnt offering. So it's very interesting that if that is true, if that is in fact the actual definition of the Holocaust, or at least what it was back then before it was, taken to the nth level that we use it for any type of atrocity now. If that is true, it'd be very interesting. It's very interesting that the Jewish leadership would use that word to describe what happened to them during World War II.
I mean, a burnt offering sounds pretty close to what historically has been known to have happened.
Yeah.
Let's say it that way.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not trying to.
We're no deniers here. Like there was a terrible thing that happened in Germany. What to the extent and how it happened, we will probably never know to the extent that we should. But we just know that bad thing happened in Germany and USA fixed it.
Yep.
Somewhat.
So
somewhat fixed it.
But anyway, that's just something that. It's funny that we've talked about several different things and they've all connected, just in the past 10 minutes, all these different things that we've talked about has connected in just the social media stuff that we've been consuming over the last 24 hours.
Yeah. It's super weird how, especially even with, the past 72 hours has been the best way I can describe it is a fucking just explosion of shit. It's, if you want to talk about blackpilling, just sit on Twitter for the next 24, 48 hours and just see what happens next. What was it, a senator who got arrested for charging Pam Bondi?
Wait, what?
Yeah, that happened earlier this evening. She was given a press briefing about something, and a Democratic senator came barging in, no pass, no nothing. And Secret Service detained him and hauled him off.
And was this a representative or a senator?
Senator. Yeah.
My God.
I can't remember his name. And now I did find this one.
So
pretty
let me
fun.
get this straight. He just barged into her office.
No, so she was giving a press briefing.
Oh.
In a press pool, and he barges in, starts walking up to her, and Secret Service just detained him in there and take him out of the room as he's yelling all these questions. We don't. This is not the time to mess around with that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting to see as well. Something that just popped up, I saw today. Guns and Gadgets did a video talking about the Short Act, which is to remove short barrel rifles from the NFA.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be put into the big beautiful bill. Do you know who wrote that?
Who?
Freaking none other than Senator Marshall from the great state of Kansas.
I mean, they've been trying to do that. I know. We talked about this several times before. Kansas. This is what's so weird. If you want to talk about the degradation of decorum, I guess of how the the federalist society that we all know and love in the Republic has degraded, because back in had to be 2012 or 2013. Kansas wrote a law saying if you manufacture a short-barreled rifle, short-barrel shotgun, or suppressor in the state, and it's used for personal use, it is legal, and you don't have to tax stamp it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And people did it, and they went to prison because the ATF said, no, that's not going to be a thing. And the state kind of stepped back and like, well, the ATF said. So that kind of got nixed pretty quick. And then I think Texas did it, like 3 years ago?
Yeah, about 3 years ago, yeah.
And now
that's just kind of, people stopped talking about it.
Well, it's not that. It's a weird how we went from a... because how this is supposed to happen is that the reason why decriminalization of marijuana was successful, why sanctuary states for whatever reason are successful, is because federal powers have no real bearing unless the state allows it.
Yeah.
For example, the federal government has a very hard time coming and taking your house unless a judge in the county allows it, and then has the local law enforcement enforce it.
Yeah.
So states have a lot of power when it comes to enforcing laws. And if the federal government comes into a state and says we're going to enforce this law, it's by the good omniscience of the state to either say yay or nay. And back in the day, it was like, well, the federal government said so we're gonna play ball. And now it's just like big middle fingers everywhere. So it's weird because it's like you love to see it when it benefits you, and you hate to see it when it doesn't. Like,
right.
Everything in California happening right now is because of that exact same thing happened. We have federal rules saying you can't just illegally come to the state and live off our economy. But we can't do anything because the state of California won't let us do it. And now finally we're doing the federal government's finally doing okay, well, we're just going to go take care of it ourselves, and look what's happening.
Yeah. And it's interesting that Gavin Newsom came out and was like, well, we're the largest state in the union. And I was like, I guess you forgot about Alaska, but okay, I guess we'll go with that. And so we have a large influx of migrants, and it's interesting that they always use that word.
Words
I know.
I'm
telling you.
Yeah.
And that's actually a conversation that I had with a professor, one of my professors from K-State.
Yeah.
Way back in 2016, she was making the comments. This is Facebook arguing. But she was making the comments that, as a student of mine, I would have figured that you would have known the difference of what is right or wrong when it comes to migrants. And I was like, ma'am, they are illegal. They broke the law. I would expect you as a professor to be smart enough, to be objective enough to understand the right way and the wrong way to migrate to this country, And it was very interesting, that conversation.
And I'm gonna bring it almost kind of full circle back to Jeff Epstein. It's always interesting too when you start seeing the changes of language. Because it used to be like, if you go back to even like Barack Obama's presidency, everyone called it illegal immigrants. Hillary Clinton called them all illegal immigrants. One of the Democratic platforms was to remove illegal immigrants from our country. And then probably like 2020, 2022, they changed it to migrant.
Mm-hmm.
It was migrant or dreamers or DACA or whatever you want, DACA recipients. We changed the language, so then it changes the meaning in people's hearts. Because if you hear the term illegal immigrants, actually it's a criminal alien is the legal term for it.
Is that what it is now, or is what it's always been?
That's what the legal term. If you looked at federal laws, it's all criminal alien.
Okay.
Is the actual term. And then to like church it up a bit, we call it illegal alien.
Mm-hmm.
And then same thing with recently that I think kind of fizzled out, but it's sticking around. Is the term MAP, minor attracted person?
Oh God! Oh yeah. No.
It's weird how that it's a weird thing that's it's changing the word because there's such a guttural response to the word pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
But if we change the word, it softens it a bit.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me in the next 5-10 years if we make it that far.
So, and I just heard a story over this past weekend that just made me just like, I held it under, but it was bubbling underneath. I was furious. I wanted to really do something really terrible, but I was made aware of something that happened kind of not in the family, but adjacent to the family, I guess, that a person committed a bad thing, a sexual assault is what it boils down to. And the individual is a minor, and that person sexually assaulted a very young child.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it seemed as if the people who were in the know were just kind of like, oh, we don't really know what happened, and this and that and the other. And I was like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
As soon as I first started hearing it and they were like kind of waffling a little bit, I was like, that tells me that you're not telling me the full story. And then I heard the entire story, and I was like, I need to go buy a wood chipper.
Yeah, it's it's kind of scary that like that's becoming more prevalent. I just saw something. I think I reposted on Instagram. It was someone defending Epstein's, wasn't calling him a pedophile because pedophile has a unique. It's a word talking about prepubescent, like, but so like. They could be 12, 13, or 14, be post-pubescent, and it's not considered a pedophile.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, well,
you're gonna split hairs here.
Yes, but and no, it's hypocritical because like you hear the word pedophile, what does it actually mean? It means that person is technically correct. And we use it as a term for people that has sex with underage or not underage. Yeah, underage kids, I guess, is the best way to describe it. People that are under 18.
Right, exactly. So, which I know that there are certain laws that are being changed. Talking about California, they just changed a law that makes it legal for a intimate relation to start at the age of like 16.
Yeah, and
then people start asking questions. It's like, well, wait a second. Why is it 16? Why is it not 18 or 17? Or, and then people started connecting the dots, and it's like, well, the prostitution ages seem to get younger and younger every year. And, I'm sure that there's a lot of powerful people in California that,
have certain tastes.
Yeah. Like, what was the director that was connected to the Manson murders?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Hey, Nan.
I don't know what she's doing up there.
I don't either. But it was.
I keep on saying Adam Schiff, but that's not right.
No, it's not right. Nan would be able to tell me.
He's the one that started the whole Me Too movement.
Anyway, but he's like,
I say started, like he was the reason why it started.
Right, exactly. He was on the run.
Yeah,
and we're not talking about Weinstein. It's not Weinstein. It was.
Maybe that I'm thinking Weinstein.
Hold on a second. I got to go ask now. Okay. This is going to bug the hell out of me.
He's actually the fastest I've ever seen that guy run.
The guy who was not home during the Manson murders is
Roman Polanski.
Oh, okay. So I guess Brian. Yeah, so I guess Brian Wilson died today too. But Roman Polanski, that's the guy. Anyway,
I'm a little upset that there's no S2 Underground like priority report right now.
There was one that came out about 2 hours ago.
Yeah, there's one that came out 5 hours ago, and then it was like it probably dropped like just before news of the airstrikes. And
I'm sure we'll wake up to one.
Yeah,
for sure.
There'll be one by the end of the night. I know he's pretty on top of it.
Yeah, and so I'm going to put that into the description. If you guys are not following S2 Underground, I listen to that guy every single day, or at least just about.
When he releases stuff,
yeah,
I listen to
I mean, he listens to what do they call it? S2 update every day, and it's anywhere between
Like
2 to
10
5 minutes. Yeah,
they're not
it's
long.
not long at all, and so it's easy to digest. He tells you the like top 2 to 3 big news things, and then gives his intelligence analyst's perspective.
He does the correct thing of what news actually should be. It's the I'll give you the information and then I'm going to tell you what my opinion is on it.
Yes,
So he'll do
100%.
like, for example, I could only assume his thing would be, there'll be like, Israel strikes Tehran and other places in Iran, targeting all these people. He's like, then he goes, analyst comments. This is probably in retaliation or because of perceived notion of nuclear capabilities.
Yep.
And so yeah, it's just it's a great place to get some like no bullshit stuff, and then also it covers a lot of stuff that you don't get in the mainstream news. He actually, I don't know how to get access to it, but he has like a kinetic actions tracker for the U.S.
Oh.
That's like pretty in depth. Like anytime there's like some sort of political kinetic activity that he posts on it.
Was that kind of what he was doing with his like weekly reports back in the day, where he would go to different regions?
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's like an actual like interactive map where I think you have to be a Patreon subscriber to see it. But every time you watch his videos, he goes through like regions and everything like that. So it's a good source if you are looking at trying to get some just quick down and dirty information instead of listening to like a 2.5 hour podcast about the up and coming political stuff and all their opinions and how they just complain about things. It's a like 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what's going on. And it's a, here's information, here's my analyst comments, and that's it.
So one of the things that I did want to talk to you about when it came to LA anyway is, so I've been kind of out of the loop for pretty much the last, I would say, week.
Okay.
At least 7 to 8 days I've been just kind of disconnected. I took I went on a float trip, down in Oklahoma. We dodged a couple of tornadoes. We had a lightning strike that was like 50 yards away from our little camper.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty crazy weekend, but it was a good time, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't post a video that weekend like I normally do. I just disconnected and wanted to take a knee, and now I feel like I'm overwhelmed with everything that's going on. I'm sure everybody else is, but I'm just now starting to catch up to understand what is happening in like LA. And from your perspective, what as as an individual who doesn't want to be involved in it, doesn't really care, or cares but doesn't want to put themselves in a risky situation, what are some of the daily things or even hourly things that people should start looking into to be prepared for stuff like this? We talked about No Kings protests that may be happening. What should we be doing?
So my big thing I always pitch is do your area studies. We talk about this a million times. Just know what's going on in your area. That's like area study sounds like a big daunting task. If you type in Google area study or like how to do an area study, you're going to get a bunch of FM doctrines from the Army. You're going to get the CIMIC handbook. You're going to get all sorts of information about how these big complex maps and overlays and PDF charts, how to do all this. It's simple. It's as simple as know what's going on in your community, what's going on in your neighborhood, what's going on in your city, and kind of maybe out to the county, just kind of keeping abreast of information that's going on. So, read local newspapers, read local news channels, and then just kind of keep a pulse on. And we all know it's summertime, so we live in a college town, so population is down.
Mm-hmm.
But that means it's people the college students have left, but people from other colleges have come back home. So now there's you have a large population of young, generally unemployed or lowly employed individuals that have a lot of strong opinions about things. And we also have a tumultuous, we have understanding that and I think this is going to be kind of a normal trend as we progress in the years, is during a Republican or conservative administration, you're going to see almost yearly, if not yearly, summerly protests. Like all 4 years, there's going to be some sort of protest, some sort of big clash with law enforcement, and then come, like, if it's a Democratic leader is elected, those all go away, which is very curious because there's a lot of weird stuff that's going on in the LA riots that beg a lot of question. Like, this is it was either a pre-planned event or someone is making it worse. For example, there's a huge news story that came out yesterday that this black pickup truck showed up and was handing out riot shields, helmets, and respirators to the protesters, like riot shields, like not just the stuff we saw. Like when I first read that story, I'm like, I'm thinking like the shit that you saw in the was it the snow riots, the Ukrainian riots where people had like shields made out of like plywood and like dumpster lids and everything. Though these were like the same shit that the riot teams had. So either someone stole them or someone's been funding this stuff. Full face shield riot masks with respirators.
And that brings up our next sponsor for this podcast, and that's Mira Safety with their gas mask.
I mean, it's so yeah, just keep a pulse on what's going on around you is always the number one thing. And if you are traveling places, know what's going on over there. For example, if you're going, it's summertime, people are traveling. If you're going to a big city, just make sure, like, if you're going to visit a city over the weekend, just go on to, honestly enough, this is I hate always recommending this. Go on Reddit, go to that city's Reddit page and see what's going on that weekend. More often than not, they will post, like, the top pinned comment will be of a massive protest. Like, I bet you if you go to Kansas City's Reddit right now, r/Kansas City, we'll talk about the No Kings riots and whatever else is going on, either for good or for bad. It's always a good place to go get that sort of information. And then if there is a massive riot going to be there, maybe don't visit that state that day, or don't go to the city during the week. And if you happen to live in a large city, get out, one. And then two, I say prepare for the worst, but if you this is one thing I've been thinking about a lot recently. Like, if I go to, let's say, Kansas City and get caught in a riot, what's the best thing to do? And everyone's immediate reaction is like, I grab my backpack rifle and I kit up and I evoc out. I'm like, or I'm driving an F-250. I'm just going to hit gas until I get home.
Yeah.
It's that simple. I mean, I understand the desire for having like truck guns and full kits and gas masks and everything, but at the end of the day, your car is like a $2,000-3,000 or $2,000-3,000 pound bullet.
Yep,
that's a lot of grains. And if you are swarmed and feel threatened, that's something that you have to decide yourself if you want to hit the gas pedal and not to be a part of that situation anymore.
S2 Underground just dropped their priority report.
Okay, good.
So, and that's the interesting thing that I wanted to discuss too. One thing that I did see is there's this former Navy SEAL, and I don't know if he's trying to sell anything or not, but one of the things that he says that he carries with him in his vehicle, no matter where he goes or what he's doing, he always has a bag with him that has orange smoke and a gas mask. So if he's driving down the interstate and he's blocked by protesters, all he's going to do is don his gas mask, grab the orange smoke, pop that, get out of his vehicle, and toss it at the protesters. They're going to see orange smoke and look at a guy who has a gas mask on, and they're going to disperse very, very quickly. I thought that was a very interesting technique. I don't know how.
I also see like a former Navy SEAL who bragged that he carries a mouth guard in his back pocket. Because if
it's not Tim Kennedy.
No, I don't remember if it was Tim Kennedy. I can't remember who it was, but I remember seeing it. It was like that EDC video, and he's like, "Yeah, I carry like my jujitsu."
I do remember that. Yeah.
I keep it in my back pocket because if you ever got accosted and get ready for a street fight, you throw a mouth guard, and no one's going to want to fuck with you because you've prepared.
Yeah.
You're like, nah, or just don't get in a fight.
Just don't.
Don't
It's
get in
like
fights.
it's like here's a great idea for like us. We're a college town that is right next to a military installation. Where's the one place I'm not going to be on a Saturday or a Friday or Saturday night?
Waffle House.
Well, if we had one, I wish they had one. But no, I'm not going to be in our bar district or what we call Aggieville. I'm not going to go anywhere near that place after 7 p.m.
I think, and it's hard because like it's hard to talk about on like a podcast. We live in a first of all, very safe, very small community. So for us, if I were to, like, my biggest concern if there were something to happen is how do I contact my family, and that's my priority is how if like there was say EMP or if like cell service went down, how am I going to let my wife know? And we have some systems already in place, but we were trying to get some more systems like out of redundancy. But like that's really about it. Like our biggest protest actually are the last the hands-off protest. I think we had about 400 or 500 people there and that was probably like probably like the second or third largest protest I've seen here. But again, it's just a bunch of people and it's great because you could see like the demographic break. What was interesting about that protest, I'm going to divulge a little bit, was you had like three main categories of people there, all protesting different things under the guise of anti-Trump. So you had like the senior citizens that watch way too much CNN, complaining about Medicaid and Medicare being cut, like the budget being cut, and then you had the middle of the ground people talking about immigration. Like if you were like in your 20s to 40s, always talk about immigration and all talked about, we don't want billionaires running our economy or running our state. And then everyone like 20 and younger were talking about LGBT rights. So you had this like amalgamation sprinkled with some Palestine flags in there. Like this group of this massive group of people, like different fucking probably worldviews and ideologies, all bannering under like one thing.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to start thinking about like what are like the fundamental principles of the Democratic Party these days versus like the Republican, and it starts getting really weird because like this is just as an observer, as first of all, registered libertarian, so environment king for life. The Conservative Party is willing to just torch everything. Let me phrase this: are willing to fight in party about stuff when it has to do with policies or worldviews, and we have these arguments back and forth about like how to go about things, rather than the Democratic Party. It seems like it's a single worldview that everyone just falls under or makes concessions to other worldviews to it if they all kind of do like one giant like, hey, this is what our one worldview is, and if you stray from that, we kick you out.
Yeah.
It seems like a really weird thing. And the biggest like example of that is this whole big beautiful bill. It's like the entire Conservative Party is at odds with each other because you had people like Thomas Massey and Paul Runt going on about like, hey, this is a terrible bill. We need to cut spending, and it's this big infight in the Conservative Party. And if you looked at the voting splits, you'll have some dissent on the Republican Party, but every bill presented to the House that's more Democrat, like from the Democratic side, everyone's in lockstep. Everyone is it's 100% down the board. There's maybe one or two dissidents, but and if there's one or two dissidents, it's a huge deal. Because I remember, what's the West Virginia guy from?
No idea.
There's like a West Virginia senator for a while.
Oh, he just left, right?
Yeah, he just left because he's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah. He was middle of the road, kind of quote unquote independent, but he was Democrat. I remember him.
And what's the other guy? What's the guy that suffered a stroke? I can't remember his name. That guy is he's gonna follow suit here pretty shortly, I would imagine. But it's just like, if you don't follow our worldview that doesn't make 1,000% sense, but it just makes us feel good, we don't want anything to do with you. So
what I find is hilarious here in town is we've got the protesters over there at what is it? Not Candlewood, but where Joann's and Marshall's is.
that's not protesters.
Those people with the signs and stuff.
Yeah, because Joann's went out of business and they were having 90% off sales.
No. These are like legit. Nan went up and looked. They have signs like anti-Trump and stuff. I know I just drove by it today.
Oh, those guys, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 4 or 5 old people.
Yeah,
like
well,
very, very, very old people.
There's like 10 of them now. But the funny thing about it was that Nan and I noticed, and this is something that Amber actually noticed in the DC area with all the protests at the Tesla dealerships and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
All of them go home about 6:00.
Yeah,
because it's dinner time.
Yeah, it's.
I find it hilarious that we're going to stand out here and protest up until 6:00. Then I get to get home so we can get the dino nuggies in the deep fryer.
Well, it's one of those. It's the I always hate saying this because it's not 1,000% true, but majority of demonstrations, like most conservatives aren't willing to take work off to go stand out in the street and protest something, compared to, I think, a lot more the people on the Democratic side. Either one, don't have jobs, or two, are willing to do that because it's actually really interesting if you look at like polling statistics too. And this was just, again, one poll. One polls don't mean anything because polls all have weird ways to skew everything. But there was a recent one, and I cannot remember where it's from, but they polled by age group, like pro Trump or anti-Trump, and every age group was pro Trump except for I think it was like 60 plus. Like everyone that, and then it's like the demographic for CNN and MSNBC was like 60 plus. So it's like, it was a very just interesting, I wouldn't say correlation is causation, but
it's pretty damning.
But it's pretty damning. So.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And that's just like saying, if they polled, I think it was like by age brackets, like 10, from 20 to 30. And the splits weren't massive. It was it's like a 51-49 split. They're not massive splits. Mm-hmm. So it's not, a huge thing. It's like, oh yeah, 80%. It's not like an 80-20 issue. And then you get to the senior citizens, and then it's like a 80-20 inverse. It's like a, 40-50s. And then when you get to the 70s plus, is like a 60-40. So it's just interesting. Well,
and I did see that Trump's polling numbers actually went up here, according to whichever poll it is. I don't know which one it is, but supposedly his numbers boosted through this LA riot ICE situation.
In aggregate, he's still about the same. If you look at if you take, it's hard because when you take all these polls, the best way I've found with polls is you find 4 or 5 that you somewhat trust, and then if all of them go up at once, then it's pretty good, and if all go down, it's all good. And if they're all everywhere, that means no one knows what's going on, and the entire city is on fire.
Well, and we've noticed over the last couple of election cycles that these polls are wrong to begin with.
Yeah, it's because what polling used to be compared to now it is part of the information campaign. Where if you selectively build polls to be I'm going to use this for example, you have candidate A and candidate B. If all the polls are showing candidate A is going to win, the hope is that the people don't come out for candidate B because they're like, well, it looks like candidate A is going to win, so I'm just not going to go vote because it's polling is showing my vote's not going to matter, so I'm not going to be bothered to do it. And so so a lot of that sort of was, back, I don't say the 80s and 90s, a lot of that polling wasn't used as an informational space. It was just more of like, hey, this is just what's going on. And now it's a very targeted thing. Like we'll go poll 1,000 people from a very, like, we'll go to, say we'll go to a very Democratic section of a town and poll 1,000 people and say, well, everyone's voting Joe Biden, like 90, it's like 90-10 split. And so then you're like, so if they poll up, like, according to this poll, 90% of people are going to vote Joe Biden. And then you're like, oh, well, then I'm not going to go out and vote because there's no way my vote's going to matter.
Yeah.
And I use that as a exaggerated example, but.
Right. And that's exactly what we saw in 2016. And that got torpedoed.
Well, we also saw that in 2024 because what also happens is there's this weird phenomenon where people will say what sounds the best at the moment, the best option at the moment, but then do something completely different. As everyone here, all three of our listeners know, people will say one thing and do a completely different other thing because saying one thing is always easier than doing it. So you'll have people that say, if you get accosted on the street, like who you're voting for, during like a highly politicized, election cycle, you're probably going to choose the easy answer and say, I'm going to vote for this candidate because I don't want to be accosted anymore. And if you say the other candidate, they're going to ask a bunch of questions and keep you there. So you're just like, I know the answer to get out of this. I'm going to lie to you so I can just walk away from you.
And that's how you get out of polls, kids, is just to tell them what they want to hear.
Yep. It's better just to say what they want to hear and leave than to sit there and try to argue with people.
I learned that when I was in kindergarten.
Yeah. It's a very weird phenomenon. I mean, not weird phenomenon. It's just something that we do as humans. And I say the average human is risk and confrontationally averse. They don't want to get into fights. They just want to go about their days and live their life the best they can. So if you present them a confrontation, they're going to do what's ever easiest to get out of that confrontation, which is usually agree with you and go along with the plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here agreeing with you.
Yeah, because you don't want to be confrontational. It's got psyoped.
You know who is extremely confrontational and someone that I would have never thought would be? That is the actor that played Lieutenant Dangle in Reno 911.
Yeah.
He did a interview with the Machine. Was it Burt
Kreschner?
Yeah. And Burt he hates confrontation, and I can't think of the actor's name that played Lieutenant Dangle, but he's like, oh, I absolutely love it. And he goes on to this this story about him riding his bike home from the movie theater with his wife and his kid, and someone yelled at him, and they got stopped by a red light, and he caught up to him, and he's like, get out of the fucking car. And there's like, oh no, I'm so sorry, and everything. And he's like, see, most people will not react the way you think they will in a situation where they're being confronted, right?
Yeah.
They'll pipe off and say something, then all of a sudden you confront them. They're like, oh man, I was just playing, because they don't want to deal with it.
No, I have that all the time at work. There was my favorite story. Like we had this big issue. I say issue. So unfortunately, our department, they don't issue us flashlights. So we had to go buy our own, and everyone just went out and bought whatever cheap $60, $70 thing they could find. And there was one time, so I carry a Cloud MCH, like the first generation one. Like I remember crashing the website when they were released. That's how old this flashlight is. And that was my I used that on night shift. And I remember we were breaking up a party, and I was walking back to my car, and this guy was falling like 10, 20 feet behind me, just popping his mouth off, like telling me I was in the wrong neighborhood, and keep on walking. And I remember turning around and hitting him in the face with hitting him with the light, like the beam of light, not with him with my flashlight. Hit him and lit him up, and it was confronted him. And the first thing he said was, "I got epilepsy," and just like walked off. It's like it was the weirdest thing ever. And there's another great training video we have where this guy, he was obviously drunk, trying to get into a car, and there's a whole backstory of what happened. But essentially, he was an older man with this big old walking stick. It was a bow staff. And he kept on telling everyone he was a black belt in Aikido, and that he could just like kill everybody, and doesn't really matter. Like we didn't scare him, and he was trying to get in his car drunk driving, and we're like, no, we're gonna kind of we're gonna stop you from this. And so eventually he gets out of the car, starts flipping his staff around like Donatello.
That's right.
And
good job.
Yeah, thank you. And he's like, hey, which one of you motherfuckers is first? He's gonna die. And we hit him in the face with the pepper spray. And the first thing he said was, I got a bad knee, so I need to have this to stand up. And then I saw somebody roundhouse kick that staff in half, and he collapsed to the ground and got arrested.
Nice.
So people are very confrontational until confrontation happens to them. And then it's interesting to see how quick people back down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, no, it's interesting because, now that we're bringing this up, I'm remembering that I drove by you yesterday.
Yeah,
in a very interesting situation. Oh,
no, that was you texted me that I haven't worked in like 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So way to be racist.
No, there was a.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because my wife texted me about it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, well, I don't know if we're talking about. Actually, I don't even know if we're talking about the same thing.
Are you talking about the lady who was getting arrested today?
No.
Oh,
that was yesterday.
That was yesterday. I guess that was.
I saw you yesterday because I literally saw a dude with a tattoo on one arm, and I was like, oh, that's Jefe. It was on Kimball.
Nope, I was. We had AT this past week. Like past 2 weeks. So I've been up at the DMPRC. Loving life.
Yeah. Free Krasnovia.
Yeah. No, we were doing we did Paternity and Donovian conflict.
Oh.
Not Ukraine, not Russia.
Definitely not them.
Yeah. Didn't help that we had some people, we had some other some MPs that were there like, hey, let's do some joint training. They were doing the Atropia Iranian. And it's like, well, I don't want to do Middle Eastern. What, who does Middle Eastern anymore? And then you're like,
so 2005.
And then you're like, oh fuck, they were right. So
dope.
Yeah, we celebrated Sven Svensson Day, had cake, and had a good time.
Sven Svensson Day.
It's definitely like a super inside joke now. So I did a JRTC rotation like last year.
Yeah,
and the guy who played the governor was some sort of ambassador from South America that's retired and now contracts and does this.
Legit.
He was he was a legitimate ambassador. I don't remember what country he was from. Like 20, 30 years ago, or 10, 20 years ago. And now he contracts and does role playing roles for probably like Oak Grove. Like what a fucking cool job that would be.
Yeah.
And we were doing the CA thing and we were smacking every curveball he threw. So he just came up with a holiday. He's made it up at the spot. Sven Svensson Day.
Sven Svensson Day.
And
that's hilarious.
We were having a meeting. He goes, oh, by the way, tomorrow's Sven Svensson Day, and you guys have to prepare a speech and find a cake. And we're like, okay, cool. And the story he gave essentially was, it's a story of a local folk hero who left. I think they were doing the paternity scenario as well, but left paternity with his second wife, Ivanka, not Ivana, his first wife. We don't talk about her. To some he's like, I think he said Michigan, and then returned back with his third wife, Ilana, not his second wife or first wife because we don't talk about them, and became a successful folklore legend of the area.
Okay.
And so we celebrate Sven Svensson Day on, it was July 25th on my calendar. But
okay.
Since we had to up the timeline a bit, so
yeah, sure. Well,
we have cake. Essentially, you just have cake, and then the fun one is the scenario demands that the oldest village role player feeds the youngest soldier cake, like the first piece, and yeah. Well, it's supposed to be like
at a wedding ceremony.
So my instructions was because I was like in charge of all the role players. I just did the, you're in charge of, I went to him like the oldest. I'm like, your charge is to give the youngest soldier the cake and make it as awkward as you can. And so what he did was, it was actually our chaplain. So he made this huge like pomp and circumstance. It was almost like the Eucharist with this cake until he just like slam dunks it in her face for the plate. He goes, bop. So it was an absolutely hilarious thing to watch, and then the entire scenario falls apart. But
yeah.
So yeah, since Vincent Day.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm pooped. It's like bus work, AT, and we started a little bit late. So,
yeah. But
this is our probably like our shortest.
One of our shortest, yeah, for sure, yeah. So closing thoughts.
Don't believe everything you're reading right off the page. Give it a day or two to breathe. Much like room clearing. We haven't talked about room clearing ever, but yeah, open doors, let it breathe for a little bit. So
toss in a grenade.
Like read the news, be part of it, give it a day or so before you start getting worked up about things. Chances are it's going to be a lot better for your mental health. If you just let things breathe for a couple days and then start forming opinions about it.
100%. I mean that is like the exact conversation that I had with my ex-wife and her mother-in-law when they were talking about the Maryland man that was deported to.
He actually he was brought back.
Yeah, he was,
and then his arraignment's tomorrow.
Yep, for human trafficking. So, good job on that senator for going down there and trying to support him. But my biggest thing right now, my closing thoughts is I just picked up the Little Fit and Fire to hang out for the summer, and we're going to
Little Fit, Little Fire.
Yeah, we're going to have a blast. We've got her signed up for some voice lessons because she's getting into choir more and more. So also going.
It's like I've heard her talk; she can do it. Okay.
Yeah, no, she got
singing.
She got hooked up with honors choir next year.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of invest some money in her and let her excel a little bit, but at the same time, we're also going to do some zip lining. We're going to do some. We're going to have a pottery class that she's going to get into as well. So the whole point of it is. I don't get much time with my daughter, but when I do, I'm always trying to create those wonderful memories.
Sorry.
Yeah,
no, sorry. Keep on going.
No, I was going to say, we're just creating wonderful memories and make sure that you guys have it. But I'm going to leave it right back to Jefe because he just got some updates.
Some new breaking news.
Breaking news.
As of 2109 EDT, which I don't know which that one is. It doesn't sound real. A district judge has ordered President Trump to return operational control of the California National Guard to Gavin Newsom.
That's a district judge, though.
A district judge,
yeah.
Correct.
And we've already gone through that with the whole Maryland man situation where district judges, they don't really carry much weight.
Well, so it's weird because this is, okay, I won't go too much into it. So it's this weird legal thing that we're starting to see. So there's a thing called like universal injunctions.
Yes.
That isn't a thing. It's just one of the things that were just made up one day. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be like a very rare use case. Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of a weird thing that, these small, like lower court judges are dictating, national policy. Like,
exactly.
That's not a thing. You just don't say that. Like, you don't, I think with Breyer Garcia, that was the exact same thing. It was like, even Supreme Court recognized, like, yeah, like we can dictate what happens here, but we cannot dictate foreign policy because that's not our job.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see what plays out of this, and chances are, I would love to see this play out the way it's the administration go like, who's this guy? Yeah, no, screw him. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is he going to do?
Yeah, he can't enjoin the United States completely. And that was the
Yeah.
argument, was that this district judge was enjoining a decision by the administrative branch that was basically in charge of policy for the entire nation. And it's like, no, you can't do that.
Well, the nice it's the nice thing and the kind of crappy thing about our judicial system right now is that a lower court can put a stay on it, and it's not really, it's up to the defendants to adhere to it, because the hope would be is that it gets appealed and then goes to the next level courts, and they'll either hold it it's supposed to get, you usually have the appeals process all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, the problem is that takes months and or years for it to happen. So it's been a great political tool to say, hey, we're just going to we're going to block you now and hope that you don't challenge it, because we know it's going to be a legal battle for the next at least 6 months.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Which is what we've seen in the firearms space for decades at this point.
I don't know. The Hearing Protection Act at least is maybe going through.
Maybe. Well, it depends on if that big beautiful bill actually happens.
Big beautiful bill.
It's so big. It's so beautiful. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for so long. We do appreciate everybody that's been listening and all the shares and stuff like that. If you have the opportunity to pitch us over to some of your friends and let them listen to it, that would be pretty awesome. But needless to say, we appreciate you guys swinging by once again. Thank you to Excess Sights, our actual title sponsor for this podcast, and we will catch you guys later. As always, don't forget to live, laugh, and LARP. Bye, y'all.